It's a true story, and it's called One Pine Gesture. I had 3 mates when I was 9 years old, and every year we used to go to this farm and steal the pears, because they were really juicy pears. And this time we went, they built a wall and put glass, because them days they could do it, they put glass on top. And because I was the tallest, I was managed to jump up to a branch and swing onto the thing and then climb up the tree. I won't tell you anymore, but that's basically what it's about. This was a special time of year when apples and pears are ripe. There was, though, just one problem. These fruits we'd have to swipe. Yes, we're on our yearly raid to an orchard past the wood, with Chris, Stephen, Norman and me doing this caper. We felt good. We kept blowing the long grass to the edge of the objective. From there we could see clearly the fruit we'd picked was selected. Surveying the orchard and further afield, it was clear, but something's changed. They had fortified all the fences. In fact, all had been rearranged. A wall surrounded half the orchard. Over this was my best shot, when suddenly Norman whispered to me, "John, there's glass along the top." A wall with glass asleep on its head makes it more dangerous to get over. Another orchard in another time, the fence that claimed my pullover. Being the tallest was often the best. Today was no different for me. A branch was hanging over the wall that got me from A to B. With a run and a leap up high above, I managed to get a grip, and swinging my legs onto the wall, my bum on a branch I sit. Posterior wouldn't have sounded right. This tree was ripe with juicy pears, which attracted some stinging guests, so carefully examining every one before putting them down my vest. By now the other 3 had managed to find a way over the fence. They were silently collecting apples, but something was wrong, I sensed. Norman stood under the tree. His coat was catching each pear. I stopped to rest for a moment and removed twigs from my hair. We were ready to call it a day when a lot of cows we heard. That's when I saw the farmer returning with his herd. Chris, Steve and Norman got clear. I was too high up the tree, so I kept still and very quiet, hoping he wouldn't notice me. He herded the cows into the shed and I heard the machine start up. All that cool and fresh milk, what I would give for a cup. I couldn't wait around any longer, no tea in the home if you're late. So scurrying down the wall of death, I was leaving it up to fate. Then someone yelled from the farm as I dropped to the ground. I was free but made one mistake. As I dropped, I looked around. Making our way home with our treasure, we equalled out an even share. I hid my stack in our coal hole because only me went there. Next afternoon, it happened to be Sunday, I was called to our front door. There stood an elderly farmer, early to bed, no evening tea, I'm sure. This farmer's orchard was raided. Come close so we can see your face. My movements became so very laboured, I was suddenly a poor open case. My younger brother was behind me. He, like me, was certainly not small, and just like my 4 sisters, was fair-haired and also tall. To my surprise, the farmer said, this kindness, this is in brackets, this kindness was new to me. Sorry, missus, he's not one of them. They all had black hair, you see. As he turned to go, he winked, which brought from me a grin. He'd realised the house was a home and I had enough problems within.
Well, I was born in 1959 and on the east side of Leeds in Bermontofts, where nearly all the streets were little red brick back-to-back terrace houses. I used to call them 2 up, 2 down. So as you went in through the front door, you were in the living room, and at the back of the room was a staircase to go upstairs. And on your right-hand side was a tiny, narrow kitchen. They used to call them scullery kitchens. And every house was the same, and everybody on the street, my mum and dad were Irish, nearly everybody in the area was Irish. In fact, when I went to school, I used to get the mickey taken out of me because I'd got an Irish accent even though I was born and grew up in Leeds. But the houses were, we didn't know any different, but they were really small, no toilet, no bathroom, and a cellar that we kept the coal in. So I don't know why, but I used to like watching the coal tipped in through the coal hole window, and my mum would let me go down to the cellar and the coalman would tip all the coal and you'd watch it come down like in in a big fountain of black nuggets. But there were rats down there, and occasionally, I think it was the council or somebody would bring a couple of dogs. I'll never forget, they were called Bedlington Terriers. And they'd go to the top of the cellar steps, open the door, put these two terriers down, and all you hear is this really frantic barking. And every so often there'd be a scratch on the door, and the dog would have a scratch at the door, the rat pest man would let it out, and it'd have a rat in its teeth. And they do come up with half a dozen rats, and then they go away. And the houses, there were, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of them. They all seem to be exact identical houses. But eventually they had to get rid of them, because in the mid-60s, I think there was a law brought in that you had to have a bathroom inside and a toilet. Because obviously with just being two down, there was no room for a toilet or a bathroom, or even a bin. So halfway down the street would be what they used to call the middin, where all the bins, everybody's dustbins were kept. I don't think you had individual bins. I think there was just a set of bins that were picked up once a week, and you take your rubbish down there. But at the same bit of the street was the outside toilets. So if you wanted to pee, you had to walk down the street. And at that, I grew up with a little bit of a fear of rats because of that, because they used to hang around there, because there were bins next to toilets, and I'd been little, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, going down the streets at toilet. The streets were very safe. Nobody had a car virtually that I remember, so you were all right walking out and playing in the street. But there were rats down there, and I've never liked them. I still don't like them now. There was a bit of a rigid routine when I think about it. All your mums were out on a Monday cleaning step. They always did front step, and they always did laundry on a Monday, which seems strange now, but everybody had a routine. But and although it was a good sense of community, I almost think it were quite very conventional. There were these expectations of each other, like, you know, you'd be frowned on if if your front step wasn't done on a Monday or your washing wasn't out. I were obviously very young, but I can tell now, looking back, how everybody did the same thing, so it was probably quite rigid in its way. In fact, the only thing I can remember is that it was strange to see any grass. You know, my dad would occasionally take us to a park or something like that, but he worked shifts, so we didn't get to see any or play on any grass in my younger years. In fact, I moved over to Intake in Bramley to a council house when they cleared these streets, and there was a little triangle of grass in front of the house, and I can remember when my mum and dad were moving everything in, going in to see my mum and saying, "Can we play on that grass?"
I'm talking to you with a great deal of frustration about the hypocrisy that governs our beleaguered nation. It's that time we're asked to take note whilst the new leader says who of us are the winning vote. The pensioners are very continually gullible and often deluded, whilst pensions are crippling and their grey vote is eluded. It is they who fought the wars and infused our nation, and now they're left to dwell on technologisation. So now the school gate mums with kids struggling each day, politicians target them at gates whilst their kids are at play, forgetting now the effects of war and hate, until after elections when they're expected to regenerate. The demerge of all we see and all that we know to the gladiators of science from the fields that we sow. As the politicians form an isotropic government, it's the future of the masses that we must lament. The medium effect on popularisation, a light bulb, a window of the soul of a nation, the pneuma of a displaced society, blinded by colour and majesty. A bastardised nation of multiculturalism, bastardised by monarchs of imperialism, inequality veiled in the guise of democracy. The first for a new government should be to end the monarchy. The deep ruts to touch scores with poverty stricken. The backhoes get to work as they let the flow quicken. A quarter of adults in an impoverished state, and for the 1 in 3 children we cannot leave it too late. Inequality stretches the rhetorical discord moshes, with materialistic pacifications providing galoshes. Volscian leaders with a stoic demeanour. Somehow I think somewhere we've been here before. Now I'm talking to you with all of my frustrations. Are you, or dare you, come to listen? The sad thing though, as history has shown, the people's plight is claimed to be one of their own.